Hello and welcome everyone. My name is Mark Hiltz and I'll be chairing the Sunshine Coast Policing and Public Safety Committee for Thursday, April 15th, 2021. And I'd like to just acknowledge that the SCRD is located within the territories of the Sechelt and the Squamish Nations. And so we'll call her to order at just past 2 o'clock. There was some late items that everyone has received about the police statistics, so that's gone around. Louisa, did you get those at all?
I believe I got an email. I'm just going to pull it up here. Thanks.
Okay, all right. So everyone else has got those. We got an agenda there. Is there anything that anyone wants to add to the agenda before we go for an adoption here? Any items? Okay, I don't see anything. There might be some things that we can update in the minutes. So if I can have a motion to adopt the agenda as presented, please. First and seconded, and all those in favor. Thank you very much. Okay, no presentations or delegations. We have some minutes to receive. This is Annex A in the package. So first of all, just have a motion for receipt of those minutes, please. First and seconded, and all those in favor. Thank you. Is there anything that anyone would like to discuss about that before we move on to the reports? Oh, wait, it's all right if I'm using first names, or do you want me to use our titles?
I'm fine.
Okay.
This might come later, but in the minutes, Staff Sergeant Hallam was asking us for feedback on the RCMP annual performance planning, and I was just wondering if there was an update on that, since I presume the priorities have been picked by now.
Thanks, Donna. So, Dawn, have you got anything for us on? Yeah, I think we all sent stuff in more or less. We did as we were told.
No, there's a bit of a delay. We run on the fiscal year, so we're April 1st. So we're just wrapping up last year's reporting. So we're in the process of building our initiatives for the coming year. We've kind of identified what they are. We are still planning some feedback from some more formal feedback from the official levels of government on the coast. So you should expect to have that early next week. But like I said, we're just trying to catch up and wrap up on last fiscal year. So that really is the update. Shouldn't see a significant change over last year. One of the big one is just improving our the wording. I apologize, been in and out of meetings all morning, but to deal with mental health and homelessness is going to be a key focus for us in the coming fiscal year.
And you said something will be coming in the weeks, in the week to month coming to the SCRD, or this will be next?
I'll be honest with you. I've drafted a correspondence email letter for the District Sechelt Town and Gibson's SCRD, all the government partners and Shoshaw Nation, and it'll just be essentially a formal request for you to provide feedback on what for your regions, what you deem to be the priorities for the upcoming fiscal year. And we have a pretty good idea, but that should be sent out. There's just some drafts and changes. If not tomorrow, by Monday, you guys should receive an email copy of that.
Terrific. Darnelda, you got something?
Yeah, I guess I was just asking about the process. So you're going to send that to us, and you'll have some ideas in there about what you consider to be the focus, and then basically we either accept that or make some modifications back to you. Is that kind of what you're looking for?
Well, not really accepting. It's a collaborative process. So, I mean, the District of Sechelt's priorities may be different than Gibson's, different than the SCRD, and we'll try and incorporate them all. So, like what our priorities may be, we'll just add them. Is it going to be 4 priorities or 6 or 7? So it's not really a question of approving per se, just if you have different priorities. I would hope you don't disagree with our priorities. We can add to it, but if you do, if there is someone does take umbrage with what we have, by all means, that feedback is okay. But I doubt that will happen. They're pretty generic.
Well, and we're working closely together all the time, so. I think-
Exactly.
Yeah, okay, perfect, thanks.
And to be clear too, some of our priorities are dictated to us by national and divisional mandates. So we sometimes have to work within parameters, but then your priorities obviously are added on and less restrictive. So.
And I might just add, I haven't heard anything extra about the Gambier RCMP station. The last I heard, there might have been a private person offering property, but that was a month ago, and I haven't heard anything specific about that. So I think people on the island are more concerned about docks right now than they are about the police visiting them, it seems like. So.
Fair enough.
Okay, so nothing else on the minutes then. Okay, so we're going to move on to the next item. We got some report here. It's the RCMP stats from Q1 2021. They were posted in our sync folder. So if I can just have a motion to receive the report, please. Thank you. And all those in favor. So Don, you want to give an introduction into the stats or?
Sure. And since I seem to be the only speaker, I might take a little more time. Just kidding. I want to give some context to, I could do this after, but I'll start. Just so everyone's aware, Staff Sergeant Hallam is still off. I'm envisioning her to be off probably definitely into the summer, if not longer. So we're kind of managing that absence. Our ops NCO, which is, we have one staff sergeant, two sergeants, of which I'm one of the sergeants. My other sergeant is absent as well. So we have, there's some challenging resourcing issues here. So doing multiple jobs. I do have assistance, and we're looking at alternatives, bringing people in temporarily from off coast to assist with a lot of the administrative and operational things. So we are working towards that. But right now, myself and Corporal Dubnik are primarily doing really 4 jobs between the two of us. So if there are delays in some returns, that's what it is. And feel free to reach out to me directly and I'll try and answer them. But we're juggling a lot right now. So I apologize if there's been some delays. Why don't I move into the stats? And on that, I know this is a little more involved than some of the previous stats. That was my doing. I found it was difficult to answer to a lot of the previous because they were so general and they didn't provide a lot. If this is too much or not what you guys want, I am welcome any feedback at the end, but I thought this might be more specific to your individual regions and give a little bit better idea of what's happening. So we'll start at the front page, and this is just an overall summary, and you can see, in the blue, we've got the violent crime, property crime, traffic calls. It's split into the, overall in the 4 regions on the coast. Comparisons to the previous 2 fiscal years, the Q1, and it gives an average. So there's some comparables there. Just take a look at those numbers. I don't think I'll go into them specifically, but if you have any questions and looking at relative to your area, let me know and I can attempt to answer it. The orange on the bottom, road safety, pertains, as it says, traffic. That's roadblocks and traffic tickets and whatnot. COVID's impacted roadblocks for us. We've kind of had to change. Resourcing is the biggest change to that. We are running very lean right now. And so a lot of our proactive initiatives have had to take a back seat. So, and plus, January to March tend not to be, we put a lot of effort into roadblocks in the pre-Christmas season, but that's the reason for 0 there, if anyone's wondering. And now to page 2. Total calls for service. Once again, this is a comparison, blue being this year, and then the orange and green being the 2 previous years. So just gives a comparison for everybody. Just looking at it quickly, we're Sunshine Coast overall, we're just above a little bit. There's been some dips and valleys depending on where on the coast we are. The next one, founded events, and that's ones that are deemed to be real and not people call in and it's a misinterpretation of what it is. So it's actually deemed to be what they report is what it was. It's a busy slide. I apologize. And if anyone has any input, we'll try and change it, but color coded as to the four main categories and then left to right from 2018 to 2021. Next.
Don, if I could ask the difference between the founded events and the total calls.
The reason for that, I mean, sometimes people maybe, let's say that we have break and enter here. Someone may call in, your neighbor may call in and say, there is a strange person breaking into Mark's house, and it's dispatched as a break and enter. When we get there, we find it's your son or daughter that they never knew about it, and that's not a real break and enter. So that would be an unfounded call. But if you were to call, someone was to call in about your house and it was actually a break and enter, that would be a founded file.
So founded and unfounded equals total calls.
Be careful with stats, but it should, in theory, equal that
Okay.
number.
Okay, thank you.
Founded instance, once again, this is a comparison that was put forward just more from an information, how we compare to similar attachments in the Lower Mainland region of a similar size. So just to give you a concept of where we rank in comparison to White Rock, Squamish, and University. Persons, violent crime, first quarter, once again, left to right from 2021 back to 19, a quarter comparison. We're down significantly for this year, which is good. An explanation for that, I would love to say it's all our policing initiatives, but I think we get too much credit for when it goes good and too much blame when it goes bad. So sometimes it's just cyclical by the people that are in jail at the time, and we have had some of our more prolific offenders incarcerated for this period, which probably has a part to play with this. Beyond that, I don't have any great insight as to that drop, except it's good news.
And what does that actually mean? Persons, violent crime.
That would be assaults, robberies. So to that effect, obviously a homicide if we had one, which we didn't have in this quarter, we did in the previous quarter. So yeah, just any where there's a violence against a person. So that there's a lot of different categories, but usually robbery and many different forms of assault, whether it's domestic or common assault or assault with a weapon, all would fall in that category. Property crime, that will encompass thefts from auto, thefts of B&E, shoplifting. So as we can see here, going across, we're down a bit, but we're over. Last year was an oddity with, mind you, that was the quarter, so that was pre-COVID. But a lot of times it's cyclical. And like I said, for this quarter, we've had a lot of our prolifics incarcerated or off coast, so that's kind of driven our numbers down, which is good. Traffic calls for service, once again pretty self-explanatory, coast and then for each region, and that would be MBIs, that would be someone calling in a speed or something to that effect, erratic driving. Road safety, this is just a graph for the numbers on the first page. This says kind of what we've done in the comparison from year to year in a more readable format. This is a comparison for decreases and increases and how we stack up with the whole Lower Mainland region. You can see most across the board have been a decrease. So when we see this decrease, yes, we've gone down, but not as much as other detachments, and that's sometimes cyclical. COVID probably relates to this years from now. I'm sure we'll find these 2 years are complete outliers in the statistical trends, but we won't know that for a couple years. But we're still kind of seeing how COVID's going to impact everything from finances to policing and everything else. So, and that was for March, and we have February and January, the next two slides. It went to March. I think my statistician kind of doubled up somewhere there, so I'm not quite sure which month the second March is. So that's just a snapshot of what we have. Open any questions.
Dawn is first up.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I appreciate the graphs. They're much easier to interpret than the tables. So thank you for providing that.
And to be honest, it's quite easy for us to do. So I don't know why we were so sparse in our statistics previously, but if this is something people like or don't like, or if they want more, it's pretty easy for us to do. So just let us know.
And David.
Thank you, Chair. You mentioned, so that you were trying to get some backup staffing in. Are you finding the housing situation is impacting on that ability?
Not for the backup, no. That would be a temporary, and we'd be on the hook for some temporary accommodation, which is, always findable at a cost. It'd be a more permanent moves for transfers where housing definitely impacts it. But what I was referencing there isn't being impacted by housing, no.
I just have a quick question are the stats that are presented to the regional district similar formats to the town and the district? I have not been to a district or a town meeting for the RCMP. So is it similar?
No, this is, like I said, a lot of this was myself. I have to speak to it. So I wanted to change it. I know the district of Seashell. I presented Darnell that can speak up by last month, I believe the middle of March, and we incorporated similar stats. But traditionally that's not what's presented. Just like the town of Gibson's, it was more what this policing committee has, and really it's what you guys want is what we'll present. If you guys were happy with what was before, then that's okay. If you guys want something a little more like graph oriented and visual, then that's what we can do.
Okay, so I got Donna again here. Donna, then Darnelda.
Yeah, I just can't resist asking what the heck's been going on Bowen Island.
On Bowen?
Yeah, on the February statistics there, page 14.
Oh, I see. The comparison. Okay. But just be careful when you have as few files as they do. It only takes a couple files to really skew your percentages, right?
I'm sure. It just sounds like there hangs a tail.
Yeah, I mean, well, honestly, that's the problem. All it takes is you can have one person for the weekend, smash 4 or 5 cars, and your statistics quarter to quarter go up significantly, right? So, but I'm not quite sure why Bowen has this crime spree. It's just not a safe community based on this. No, I'm just kidding. Don't quote me on that, please.
Darnelda, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on Don's information, like the report that he gave to us. I mean, we were looking at providing information to council for financial decision making, right? Because we were looking at potentially adding another staff member, a municipal staff member, and also looking at another position, a municipal position, not a member, but somebody to handle things like Block Watch and Business Watch, right? So we were looking at presenting more information for that. So the report that Don gave us was very comprehensive, was really good. And actually we're using some of that information now to put together to go in with a grant that's going in tomorrow to potentially fund that one position for the Business Watch and Community Watch program.
So Don, just about the statistics, you said, so if we have particular questions like before the next quarter, we should just fire them off to you and say, could you include that? Is that sort of what you're thinking as developing these as we go along?
Well, I mean, on a case-by-case basis, if you have a question that you're, obviously quarterly and, a month from now that you need answered, it's probably something that we can provide immediate if there's a benefit to you. But from a quarter-to-quarter basis, I mean, we probably want to standardize it somewhat and what's going to benefit you. But if you were to give me some notice, or Poppy, whomever, of due to some increase in crime or some topical thing for this past quarter, by all means, we can add that to our presentation for the quarter of record.
Okay, thanks. And David, you got a question?
Thank you, Mark. Sergeant Newman, I'm just wondering, you referenced in your priorities the mental health and homeless, and I know it impacts on the detachment quite significantly because you're having to deal with stuff that traditionally isn't always, in your wheelhouse. Um, I'm suspecting that a little more information on the amount of time that's being taken from regular policing duties to deal with these two specific issues would help with funding requests.
Yeah, and I mean that's definitely something. It's a challenging ad. It's a little more work. It's not as easy as these are because these are just obviously you plug in the computer, it runs a program. When we're talking time, it's a bit of a manual searching too. But if there's a benefit to that, then that's definitely something we would do. And like for Darnelda was referencing, when we're looking at more of a financial ask, that's definitely something we can delve into and provide more specific data on.
David, follow up?
So, because I'm assuming, Gibson's, we have community policing looming on our horizon. So I think, just having those figures available, it would be useful to, I'm sure Mayor Seegers finds them useful in, their requests moving forward, asking for additional manpower. And I think it's something that, Gibson's would appreciate having, as we move to April 2022.
No, we can definitely, what we'll do is I'll talk to the two people who do the stats for me, and we'll find a way maybe to add some component to time spent for mental health, or maybe just add mental health calls in general might be of interest. And it probably is very topical and it probably should be included. So we'll look to add that for the next quarter.
And keep going, David.
Sorry, it's just, I don't think people really appreciate how much time is consumed with these other issues, because it's usually not a single member that can attend. It's usually multiple members that need to attend. So I think it's just valuable information that people need to be aware of.
It is. It's a hard to quantify though, because mental health is so pervasive in society. I mean, and just because someone is mentally ill doesn't mean the reason that we're dealing with it is necessarily their mental illness is not necessarily the driver of why we're dealing with them at that time. But it is when you look at it on a macro level, it is relevant. So it's very hard to get an accurate thing. And just like Gibson's now with the Gibson supportive housing, I mean, now we're also going to factor in travel time. Should we be doing an apprehension to the hospital and the wait time? So there is going to be a significant impact on our resourcing and our flexibility for responding to calls for service. And it's going to benefit us as well to have a better capture of that data.
Go ahead.
Sorry, one last question. And I'm just, I know that you're going to be presenting statistics to the Gibson's Council, and I can anticipate at this point, there in all likelihood is going to be a question of how many calls you've had to the supportive housing. So I'm just giving you probably a warning on that one.
Oh, I think I probably would have figured that. I would have figured that one out.
I would love for you to be able to say none, but I have in fact seen PCs sitting in front of the building. So,
yeah, no, I mean it's interesting, and as Darnelda can speak to, I mean, it's not just that physical address that is the driver for us or some of the issues. It's the area, and it's going to be harder for us to capture that in Gibson's because some of the associated issues that the community or the town or police may have. There's probably moved to Sunnycrest or up to the business district. Where in Seasheld, it's more centralized and I guess it's more immediately apparent, the association. But it's going to be a challenge, and we'll deal with it moving forward.
Around all our tables, this discussion of vacation rentals has been coming up, in noise and things like this. And RCMP can respond to noise complaints. So is that a stat that's collected from an RCMP point of view about the responses to Where does it intersect by law enforcement and RCMP? That statistic is it?
That statistic would be scored as a bylaw. So file now it would break down in subcategories. So it would be possible for us to search that out for sure.
There might be some interest in that as we move in, because we don't really know what the scope of the short-term rental problem dwellings are. Okay.
I don't think we get a lot of calls moving in the summer. And COVID, once again, like I said, right? It's skewed everything. It's our traditionally what we've seen from seasonal, and we don't know. I don't think we're getting inundated. We do have complaints about the vacation rentals, but it isn't something that's a huge call driver for us right now. And I think the truth is, a lot of people, whether we've been training them to look, at the local bylaws, SCRD, District Decisional Town of Gibson's, or a certain frustration with the inability of something to happen, maybe they're not calling in. But I can say we've had a significant number of noise complaints.
Donna, you were hand up, hand down.
Yeah, I think you're right that it would be useful to be able to quantify the impact. If it's not that significant, fine, but it's just another cost.
Are you referencing noise now?
Yeah, I'm referencing the complaints about short-term rentals, because if somebody's, holding a big party at midnight, there's not many options except to phone the RCMP.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'm not saying there's no calls, but yeah, I think a lot of people aren't calling though, and that's the truth. It's like anything else. You have a problem place, one place might call 10 times in 2 weeks, and less so the last year. Before, we were definitely seeing it pre-COVID, especially in the SCRD. That was a huge driver for us for calls, in the Roberts Creek area especially. But I mean, we're moving into summer. I don't know, but if that, like I said, we can pull any stat. I mean, it's really just a question of what we input. So if there's a desire or a need for that, just put in the request. That isn't necessarily something that has to wait for the next quarter. That's something we can provide to the levels of government really, in a pretty quick turnaround.
Darnelda.
Yes, I wanted to address the non-emergency phone line. I know last year before, it was a big issue. I think more last year, that people were calling in and waiting 45 minutes, an hour, etc., before they were actually having their call answered. Has anything happened in that area?
No. I mean, the true answer is no. I mean, someone came to me this morning, and it was a domestic complaint, which was kind of old, so it wasn't a 911 worthy call, but they had been on hold for 45 minutes. So what they did is they kind of did the end around, and they knew someone who knew someone who knew someone working here. And even with those multiple layers of third and fourth hand, we still managed to action it quicker than their non-emergency call was answered. So that's pretty telling, and it's pretty pathetic on a lot of levels. But it comes down to ecom. They're the contractor service to provide. So they're the company that's contracted to provide that service. During the day, it's less of an issue sometimes, because the call should come through our front counter, and the delays aren't there. It's outside of those 8 to 4 hours that, yeah, we're seeing 45 minutes, if not longer. What that's doing is, I think people are reluctant to call sometimes. Stuff is getting unreported. Yeah, or they're calling 911 where they shouldn't. We do have the online crime reporting, which has seen some ability for people to put those complaints in a more user-friendly and time-friendly way. But no, I'd love to say that we fixed the delays to the non-emergency, but ecom has not managed to do that.
So who do we advocate to for that? Because this has gone on. I mean, I don't know how long it's been gone. It's been over a year.
It's 100%. It's a provincial funding. It's an ecom like I said, who is the service provider that provides that service across the province to a lot of policing jurisdictions, not just RCMP and not just the Sunshine Coast. And they'll tell you it's about their ability to staff and their funding. So like everything, it comes to funding, right?
Mhm. So that's under the Solicitor General then?
I would assume ecom is, to be honest with you, I should know that, but yeah, it would be
Okay.
part of your policing contract. So I'm assuming it would be.
Okay, so I think next week there's a mayor's, sometime in the next couple of weeks, there's a Lower Mainland District meeting of mayors. So I will bring it up and see what we can do about that.
And I know new leadership just went into ecom.
Yes.
One of our assistant commissioners went over
Mhm.
what that's going to mean. Hopefully, at least it brings a perspective of the cost to the policing environment and the communities, and not just the dollars and cents. But it'll take some time, I guess, for that to really play out. But the more you complain, the better. And I definitely think it's an issue that comes down to money.
Mhm. Mhm. Thank you.
David.
Thank you, Mark. With respect to the short-term rental thing and whose jurisdiction it falls into, I got a call this past weekend for, it was an issue in the regional district, and apparently the people phoned the RCMP and were told it's not our problem. They couldn't get a hold of anyone at the regional district. They phoned Vancouver Coastal Health, got nowhere. It might be helpful from a regional district point of view if there was something on the website that was easy to find that, if you've got an issue with short-term rentals, who to actually deal with. And I notice Aidan's in this meeting, so I just thought I would bring it up. My bright smiley face is still on the regional district photograph thing for the director for Gibson's. But, and it was sort of frustrating because I appreciated the person's problem, but there was little I could do either. So if there was just some simple guidelines for people, it might be helpful.
Does our staff, there is things in the works. I don't know if there's anyone from SCRD staff who kind of a complaint mechanism or frequently asked questions on vacation rentals as we go into the season.
It's something that staff are discussing as we speak. I was actually just texting a little bit about it, so we're trying to figure out what we might be able to do.
Is that what you're thinking, David?
Yeah, it's just people get really frustrated, and if they if they have to sit on the wait line with the RCMP because they may try calling it and it's a 911, but then they're told it's not a 911, so phone the other line or try someone else. But it's I think if we can sort of do something to mitigate people's frustration, that at least even if it's just an online questionnaire, fill it in, please. At least the problem sites are tracked, and it takes a bit of the pressure off some of the other resources.
We got anything else going on? Statistics, general comments, questions for Dawn? Shaking heads. I got to ask the Bowen Island question. Is there a detachment on Bowen Island?
Yeah, Bowen Island is it's part of Sea to Sky out of Squamish, but they have 3 members when they're full, so 2 to 3 members.
So they got a vehicle over there?
Well, they have a couple vehicles and they have a boat.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay, so are we concluded our statistical comments and questions? Look like we have no communications. No communications. We have no new business. So we get to do a roundtable, which we rarely have time for. So it's kind of nice. So we're going to go around the squares and say things about policing and public safety. So anyone want to kick off? Okay, Donna's first up.
Are you able to allow me to share screen so I can show off my chart?
Let me, boy, you're asking a lot here. Let's see.
I know I am.
There's someone who doesn't know how to do it. I see your name. I don't see my ability to change your role.
There's no pull down menu next to my name that gives you options.
Not for sharing screen. But perhaps, I'm not sure if IT is around who could
I think
do
it might be in the video settings in the bottom left, if you go into video settings, but maybe David knows better.
Mark, if you go to the share screen thing at the side of it, there should be an option
Oh.
for you allowing other people to share.
Who can share? All panelists.
Oh,
Thank you.
I found the button.
Okay, so it looks like
There we go. Sorry, I've managed to screw this up. Can you see that chart?
Yes.
Probably John is familiar with this chart, but I found this on the province's coroner's website, and this is showing the opioid epidemic. The number of deaths. The dotted line that's right below this is suicide, but just the number of cases per year and the way it's rocketing. And in March of 2021, we had double the number of cases of March of 2020. So, you know, this is really, really significant. I did, you know, we had a bit of a discussion at the Elphinstone Community Association meeting last night, but if there is anything that the community can do that would be helpful in this situation, I'm happy to spread the word. The information available from Vancouver Coastal Health is not particularly digestible. So, you know, like I say, happy to help, but don't know what to do. And I do not have any other crashing criminal activities going on in Elphinstone at this time that I'm aware of, although as usual, with the weather warming up, the parking situation along Ocean Beach Esplanade has got folks, the residents pretty exercised, but it's limited what we can do about it, frankly.
the season has begun, though. You're saying the parking season has begun.
Big time. Since COVID, there's been a lot more people down there. And this is not tourists, because this is not a tourist attraction. This is local people getting out for a walk and partying on the beach. Tons of beach fires. So it's challenging. It's a bit like Roberts Creek, right? There. So the residents are very frustrated, and there's a limit to what the heck we can do about it.
So there's a seasonality to this communication, though. We repeat this every year, it seems like, and there isn't really good tools to use each year. We reinvent it every year, it seems like, almost. Yeah. David, you're next up on the roundtable, I think. Is that?
Thank you, Mark. Not a lot. To Donna's thing with the opioid crisis, I'll send you separately the link to the CAT committee, and you know, perhaps just sitting in on some of those meetings, it might be helpful. That, you know, they're dealing with trying to deal with the opioid crisis, and it's you know, it's immensely frustrating. It, you know, just the way it's impacting on other resources, including police. That you know, there are things sort of underway, but it's a really frustrating situation. And one of the aspects of it that's particularly bad is the fact that people trained to deal with it. We brought up the question at one of the last meetings that if there was a space available on the Sunshine Coast for rehab, how long would it take? What would be the possibility of that? And they said, none, because there's no staff. Getting people into the roles to deal with it. The crisis is way outrunning, what's happening in communities. So, but I'll forward separately to you the links to the CAT committee, because it is a huge problem. And just sort of further to what I said to Sergeant Newman, if it is possible to, and it's not really fair, because what might be useful is if it is possible with respect to calls to supportive housing, is what calls were related in the community prior to the opening of supportive housing versus what they are now with the residents under one roof. And, I really don't want to target that building on School Road, but I know the questions are going to come. Something that I would, if people haven't seen it, and I think it's quite amazing with respect to a community embracing a facility, is aside from IGA and Super Value making gift card donations and food donations, there was a private donation of London Drugs cards to the facility. And one of the more recent things is the local Quilters Guild provided 40 quilts to the residents, which I think is a huge statement of support and welcome of vulnerable people to the community. So I'll leave it at that.
It's Don here. Can I make a quick comment on that?
Go for sure. Yes, please.
Yeah, the challenge, and Darnella can definitely speak to this because we've been doing this now for 2 years with high tide and sea shelter. We're almost talking interpretive statistics when we're dealing with facilities like this, and we have to be very careful, especially from the RCMP perspective, because we can put out a set of statistics that one person interprets to suit their own perspective, why another person will look at it. And when we're talking about impacts in relation to it, it's a very complicated ask, and that's something that takes a lot of careful study. And like I said, it's something we want to be very careful on how we put that out, because all it takes is someone to misinterpret or misrepresent the stats, and it's coming across as the RCMP or the town of Gibsons or the district of Seashelt is, blaming high tide or the Gibson supportive housing for a rise in crime. And we have to be very careful, and I'm hesitant to get really deep into this interpretive statistics like was referenced there. So I think we want to be very cautious. A lot of these things, unfortunately, are going to be anecdotal. You can provide the raw numbers, but how you interpret those will be somewhat up to, I guess, the position you're on. Well, and sorry, one last thing. The opiate crisis will definitely be a priority for us too. March 2021, in the last 3 months, we've seen a significant spike. Even you saw 20/19 in that slide, I believe it was. Yeah, it's a huge issue. We have a lot of people working the CAT team primarily, like David said. We work behind the scenes with the CAT. We were more of a front runner. Now we've taken a back seat. But there's a lot of issues around that, but we're still supportive and we work. If there was easy choices to the opiate, easy solutions, I mean, we wouldn't be at 7,000 deaths in 5 years in BC. There is no question. It's it is an epidemic. It's a tragedy beyond what most people would have anticipated, and there are no easy answers. But there's a lot of people in the community that are working to find some kind of solution. And that will be one of our priorities for the year coming up.
And David, you had something.
Thank you. Just very quickly, and for Sergeant Newman's benefit, I was just wanting more. I know the question's going to come up at the next time policing statistics are presented to the community in an open public meeting. So I more than anything wanted you, and I appreciate your answer fully. I know it's a really awkward, they're awkward statistics and they can be easily. I just more than anything wanted you to have a heads up and be prepared rather than becoming totally broadsided in a public meeting.
No, I definitely appreciate it, but that's where sometimes I think in this aspect we might see less is more from us. But we'll cross that bridge when we come to it.
Any other folks have something to add to the roundtable? Andreas, you got something? Andreas is up.
Yeah, one is just a comment. I've been there's been some concerns around wildfires or campfires being lit on the beach above high tide line, especially in front of Camp Bing. And Chief Higgins and I have been trying to address that, and I think the chief has got his has got it under control, and I think he feels fairly confident that he can respond to anything that might happen there. And as the fire season progresses, we hope that those folks that were lighting fires in March are not going to be doing that in June. But so yeah, there's certainly some concern in that area. I've also been going back and forth with Colin Midgley and around a lot of parking issues on Cassidy regarding Gulf Beach. So that's similar to Ocean Beach Esplanade, as Donna mentioned. And apparently there's people parking in front of a hydrant. So I don't know. I don't think, if you've got a non-emergency wait time of 45 minutes, I don't think there's a point in calling the RCMP non-emergency number to report somebody parking in front of a hydrant. By the time anybody shows up, even if they could, those people would be gone. So, but that leads me to a question. I'm wondering if the RCMP or ECOM or anybody like that has ever considered using texting or social media, or taking on text your concerns to this number, or even text a picture. Like if you see a crime in progress, often there's a video or a picture going on, like just send that. And I'm wondering if there's any kind of embrace of that kind of technology happening.
First off, I spoke to someone about Gulf and Cassidy yesterday, so we'll see what we can do about that. But I do think it's probably a Modi issue as much as anything. But as for technology, there's a lot of technology out there. But typically that technology that you're referencing is, we do have online crime reporting now, which kind of fits the purposes. But any in progress, you have to be very careful because there are always technical glitches. And like anything, you need someone on the other end to monitor that technology. So, from an emergent call, I don't know if we'll ever get to that point. I know there's jurisdictions across the first world anyway that are embracing technology and it's there, but a lot of it comes down to funding and even less than funding, it's the back end resourcing. I mean, it's great to have a website, but who upkeeps it, who maintains it, who data uploads, right? So there's a lot of options available for us from a technological standpoint, but unless we have that back end support, the tech support, like I said, the data input, it's great in theory, but it doesn't work in practice. But like I said, the online crime reporting I think is good as a good option. We definitely have to look at something for the non-emergency waits. But for calls in progress or something that people are expecting you know, an immediate response, whether that immediate's an hour or 2 hours, not necessarily in 5 minutes. I don't know if we have the technological abilities right now to adapt to that.
Yeah, I'm just regarding the, you know, something like somebody parking in front of a hydrant, a quick picture and a send to this web link kind of thing will at least saves people from being on hold for 45 minutes. Not that you're going to be able to respond or anything, but at least they feel like they've reported something.
And we have that. Our online crime reporting allows pictures to be uploaded. So
okay,
yeah, no, so that ability is there. Maybe there's not awareness, and we'll have to put it out again to just make the public aware. And it is an outlet for them. So yeah, no, but by all means, we have the starting point for that. Could we do more? For sure, but like I said, that's definitely a bigger discussion.
Thanks. You're muted.
Thank you. Andreas is done. We got Sue's hand and Darnelda. So you got to follow up with Andreas? Or, okay, so you're following Sue then. Okay, Sue's up.
Yeah, I just have a couple of things. I just wanted to say that in the public safety realm, we our board chair wrote a letter to the Liquor and Cannabis Regulation Branch about the non-medical cannabis retail store in Roberts Creek, and just some concerns about the close proximity to the Roberts Creek Elementary School. And was just hoping to let them know and relay the message that we do request a 300-meter buffer zone between such shops and elementary school kids, period. And the closest point between the elementary school and the address provided is 67 meters. So it's fairly close to the elementary school. So on behalf of the board, Chair Amaral did write a letter to the Liquor and Cannabis Regulations Branch, and that was on March the 15th. I'm not sure we've received a response to that yet, but I know we have dealt with that in the town of Gibsons and got some good feedback. So that's that one. And the other item is speeding in school zones. You guys are going to get tired of hearing me say that, but we have got feedback now from virtually every school, depending on where they're situated, what streets they happen to be on or what, but we've got reports from all schools that this is an issue, this is an ongoing issue. And so just want to keep putting it out there because we still haven't found any resolution to particularly the Cedar Grove Elementary School situation with the speeders in front of that school. And so we just want to keep it in the limelight, keep it out there so that everyone remembers that we're still looking for resolution on those. And that's it for me.
Well, I think we could give you a little bit of an update on the cannabis application came before the Planning and Community Development meeting. So were you aware of it coming this morning? Sue, did you hear about it being on the agenda? Do you know if the school board has received the report from the regional district?
I'm sure they have. I'm sure it would probably go to the operations committee. We meet again on the 27th of April. So we'll be getting all of any reports that have come in. So yeah.
There's this morning, the support for the application made its way through the committee at the regional district this morning. And it was, the discussion is on there about the schools and yeah.
For sure.
A follow-up on the speeding, and this might be Louise's, the speed watch. That was considered in the past one of the successes of managing speeding in school zones. Has anything happened with that? Does anyone know?
So I wanted to ask Dawn, if possible, how volunteers are doing in the area. Are any volunteers thinking of coming back anytime soon? Do we have an update on that?
I think there's no question we're getting more calls from the public, but
Mhm.
one of the challenges we have and what we hope to address, at least somewhat through the District of Sechelt grant, UCBM grant, is to have an employee dedicated to coordinating our volunteer programs, because it goes back to my technology comment. There's a lot of back end work, and we're barely meeting our front line and our basic policing requirements. We don't have the capacity at this point to manage a number of volunteer programs. We realize that's to our detriment. We realize that that's not the good thing, Speedwatch being a prime example. And that's what we're hoping to alleviate through this pilot project with the District of Sechelt, to bring someone in, because the managing, it's like anything, setting up is the hard part. There's a lot of front end work. Once it gets up and running, it's a little easier to manage. But it is, I mean, with criminal record checks, with all the insurance, the liability, the training, it's a full-time job. And unfortunately, we just don't have the capacity to do that right now because of the challenges we have from a resource. But we are getting calls from the public. I think if we were in a position to really go on a blitz, I think we could, and we were outside of COVID, but we could probably manage. You would probably get a significant number of people on the coast who would be stepping forward in some volunteer capacity, and we could probably pretty quickly put together a pretty robust speed watch for most of the coast.
That would be wonderful. It is Speed Watch month coming up in May. This is why I was asking the question. Of course, we look to our volunteers for a lot of support with the education and awareness, and it would be lovely if we could set up some speed watch enforcement or even education around the schools, in particular, I guess Cedar Grove, but we do need some volunteer help for that. And Dawn, you mentioned that police themselves, you guys are short staffed, so it's kind of a tough thing to try to pull together. But we're here to support. If there's anything we can do to help out in any way, we'd love to do that. So maybe Dawn, you and I can chat offline and see what we can do moving forward into the future when hopefully COVID subsides and we can get some volunteers going.
No, that sounds great, and hopefully we'll hear something about this grant application soon as well.
Awesome. That's all I have as far as roundtable today. Thanks, Mark.
May I ask, what does it actually take to set up a Speedwatch group? Like, is this ICBC? Is this RCMP? When like Dawn's got people lined up, so who actually would coordinate the volunteers?
So actually, I recently had some volunteers reach out. We then pass on to the police. The police work with onboarding them, getting their criminal checks. And I actually can't think of all of the list of things that they have to check to make sure we're good with having them on board. Then ICBC assists with some training, and then we work together and we partner together, setting up some Speedwatch awareness and education out there with some enforcement. So there's quite a few steps, but once we get them here and all good to go, then it's a little easier.
And to be fair, Speedwatch is the easiest to roll out because ICBC of their involvement, and they're not accessing secure police channels and information. So it is probably the easiest one because of the assistance that's built in with ICBC. But it's got to be front end loaded. There is a lot of work for us to start.
Mm-hmm.
And Speedwatch month means what? What happens in Speedwatch month?
That's when we focus on speed in all the different communities, and we're out there and we try to support with, not only the media and our social media messages, but we do work and partner with police in all the different communities in BC to focus on speed and speed enforcement and awareness. So we have our Speedwatch volunteers out on the roads with our Speedwatch signs, educating the public on speed, trying to slow everyone down.
Perfect. Thank you.
Mhm.
Who hasn't had a roundtable? Darnelda.
Mhm.
Go ahead.
I'll just quickly update you on this grant. We've referred to it a couple of times already. There's the Strengthening Communities Grant, Strengthening Community Services Grant is what it's called. So the grant application goes in on Friday, end of day, and it's a 90-day turnaround. We're looking to fund 2 positions as pilots for 1 year, and part of what's built into the program or the grant application is evaluation, so that at the end of the year we would look at whether or not these would be positions of the district of Sechelt would continue to fund. One of the positions would be sitting with the RCMP, a municipal district of Sechelt member with the RCMP kind of thing, but then they would determine how that person is employed. The focus of the grant is to deal with impacts of unsheltered homeless people in the community. So looking at the greater impacts in a community of that population. The second position is actually as a homelessness coordinator, because we're seeing that there are a lot of different organizations who are providing services to the homeless. BC Housing, Rain City, VCH, the RCMP, municipalities, but there's no coordination among them. And so there's some duplication of services, there's some missing services, and there's no long-term planning. So we want to address that piece with that position. So as I said, the grant application, I know Dawn's read it. It came out to us. It came out a couple of days ago as a draft, and then I put some stuff in. Came out again today. It's 23 pages. It's a long. They've pulled from everything. It's pretty good reading in there. A lot of information. So looks really good. We're looking for just under 200,000 to cover off, about 189,000 or something to cover off the 2 positions for the year. So if we get funding for this, goes in now mid-July, we should have that. So is potentially that something like a Speedwatch could be put in place maybe for September for a startup of school. It'd be awesome. That's it. That's all I got.
Okay. I guess I got a couple items just to add. It's there's the safety aspect. The Langdale community is doing where they do the kid cutouts, and they put them on the side of the road during certain hours, and they've contacted Moti about that. So it's they're moving them around, I understand, and so we'll see that they just started, I believe, in the last week or so. So that there seem to be. I'm not sure if they've worked on Pratt Road before or if those kinds of kid cutouts have been successful, but they look good. Sue?
I just wanted to quickly say, in reference to that was sort of initiated by Mayuki Shinke. You had the letters in the past and everything. And one of the resolutions that they've come to is they've established a walking school bus. So, and I'm on that. This is, again, as you know, my neighborhood, and I am the PAC rep for that elementary school. And so it is, if you've ever seen Finding Nemo, well, you're walking them there, you're walking them back, you're the walking school bus. That's what basically those signs are to indicate, is that there's going to be kids on the road at these hours. We've got vests and whistles, and we're doing the whole 9 yards. It's a pilot project, and good for them for finding solutions when other things didn't come up. Maybe they didn't get the signage they wanted. Maybe they didn't get other things that they wanted, but they're finding ways to get those kids from A to B. There's probably about 20 kids enrolled right now on the YMCA side of the road that are now getting guided and safely transported from side to side in the walking school bus. So that's what those signs are, and they're moving them around, but they're brilliant. I was actually going to bring a I've got pictures of them today and stick them up there so you can see, because whoever the artist was, which was a parent at the Langdale Elementary School, has done an amazing job with them. They're really neat. Yeah. And they take them down, put them back up. So hopefully it's not hurting anybody.
So that's part of the implementation of that grant funding, is that these
That is part of, yeah, exactly. That is part of it. And they're a very resourceful bunch. They're doing fantastic things. So good for them.
and the other Langdale issue, maybe a month, 6 weeks ago, there was a problem property, cannabis operation, odors coming out, and a little bit of brainstorming amongst the community at Road, and they were successful in mitigating the problem. So people are happy there. So it involved SERD by law enforcement. I don't know if the RCMP was involved. The community, I think, I'm not sure all the details, but so there was a success in improving the conditions in the community by working together there. So there was a success there. So that's all I have. Anybody else who has any final discussions on roundtable? No, we got shaking heads. What else? I don't think we have anything else to do. Roundtable is done. I don't see anyone in attendees. Our newspapers are regretfully gone, the local. So I guess we can move to an adjournment of this meeting. And all those in favor of adjournment. So I don't think there's any questions. There's nothing in chat. So we can all go out and get ready for transportation, which 3:30.
See you then.
See you next. Thank you.